This is an incoming transmission from the Jersey Shore.
This is Financial Insanity with Scott McLean, powered by McLean Advisory Group. Today you'll hear some of the most important financial information and wealth-building techniques available anywhere.
Let's get this party started, huh?
Do you have a question for Scott and the team?
Am I on the air?
609-488-4646. That's 609-488-4646.
We'll get that information to them by radio.
Now, Financial Insanity with Scott McLean.
Are you ready to retire? Well, have you saved enough? We're going to discuss this and more today on Financial Insanity. I'm your host, as always, Alex Dingman, and I'm here alongside my good friend, Scott McLean of McLean Advisory Group, founder of McLean Advisory Group, and a tremendous financial advisor. Scott, this is always a highlight of my week, my friend. It's great to see you.
Thank you, buddy. Right here in Waretown, New Jersey. What a beautiful day it is. You know, whether it's raining or hot or cold, it's a beautiful time, and I'm so glad to be able to work. And I think I got another 40 years in me, Alex.
Yeah, I think so too, my friend. And for all of our fabulous listeners, if you hear something today and it raises some questions for you, if you want to learn more, the number 609-488-4646, 609-488-4646, the number for Scott McLean and the wonderful team at McLean Advisory Group. But Scott, let's jump right in here.
Yeah, I wanted to put a note real quick from our last couple of shows. We have had so many people calling in asking questions. So first of all, I want to put a shout out to those people that are calling in. You've got some really deep concerns, and I've had a few people come into the office. I really wanted to find the concerns, and man, when they leave here, the coolest thing, Alex, I wanted to share out there is I tell them to hide your wallet, hide your checkbook. We can't do business. Let's get to know each other, to understand the questions more in detail, because retirement is scary. So I wanted to thank those people that have just met with and they've got on the phone, because, you know, by putting these questions off, because we're going to come with some serious questions today, Alex. You mentioned what we're doing today.
Yep.
And if you've got those questions, don't put it off. It's like, you know, if you had to go to the doctor and you had cancer, you're going to get a second, third, maybe a fourth opinion. This is why it's so important. So I wanted to thank those people who came in. And for those of you calling, the questions that Alex and I go back and forth come from you. So thank you for that.
Yeah, no, that's a great note. And so, yes, talking about if you are ready or not to retire. Later on, we're going to be talking about how boomers obviously up to bat with retirement right now, but Generation X is on deck. And then we're going to close this show with probably our favorite segment, the mailbag segment, where again, we get questions from you, the great listeners. But let's jump into the topic of the day, talking about how much money do I need to retire comfortably. So, Scott, is there an actual magic number?
Well, let me grab my figure 8 ball. Remember the 8 balls? You had to turn them over to find out what the answer is. As I look at let me turn it over. It is right.
Oh, you
here.
have one of those?
Magic number.
Oh, I didn't know you had one. You're just now telling me, Scott? Come on. It's been your secret this whole time.
I love it. You think about how, asking about how many donuts you need for breakfast. Well, it depends on your appetite. And to think about, well, it could be a couple $1,000,000 for some people. For other people who maybe are going to live overseas and live in a very inexpensive country, it could be a lot less. And then those are people that came in just the other day from our radio show, Alex. They are living down to earth. They don't spend a lot of money. And when they told me how much they were spending on a monthly basis, I said, I bet you're kidding me. He goes, no, I think we need that. I said, well, I bet it's going to be a lot less. Let's dive into it. We found out that, so again, depending on what your lifestyle is, and when you go into retirement, you don't really know what that is. We can work with it, but it's got to be a flexible number the first 6 to 8 months to a year. But when you find that number, that's where your budget is. So run the budget first, Alex, and we can figure that out, and we'll go on. I'm sure you got some more great questions for our listeners, our loyal listeners, to really use the math that I use that I'll make it so simple they'll be excited.
Right. And Scott, it's all about finding that number for that particular person. It's not about what worked, for your brother-in-law or for that guy at work. I mean, everybody is so individual, and that's what it's all about. Just like your analogy with donuts. For some people, it could be that they only need 3 donuts to get satisfied. But some other, maybe you need 6. But either way, you don't want to run out of donuts or money halfway through the party, right, Scott?
That would be a bad day.
Yeah.
Especially when you have to go to your neighbors and borrow a cup of sugar to make your own donuts. But I think about you're on the long haul plan. This is the long haul plan. If you take your tests in school, used to be age 80 or 90. Now they're going out to age 100. So we have to figure out, will your money last a good long time? Now, will you last a good long time? I don't know. God willing, I hope you do. But again, savings is like a tank of gas. If you got your foot on the heavy pedal in the first few years, maybe giving the kids money that really you shouldn't be because it could really affect you, or perhaps maybe you're just cruising comfortably. It depends on the emergencies that you come about. And again, that is really a question. This is why when you speak to your advisor, when things come up, you need to give them a call and say, you know what, I need to take care of my mom right now. She's in the nursing home and she's going to be coming home living with me. I need to pull money out. I'm not going to go back to work. Game changer. So again, we all have good intentions, but again, what's the bottom line? That is a conversation with the advisor, which is why people come in here all the time.
Well, yeah, and Scott, and whether it's trying to calculate, do I have enough gas for my drive, or do I have enough money for my retirement? You know, we're not all math experts. I was terrible at math in high school. I need some help. So how do we figure out that number as far as what's needed for retirement, Scott?
Well, you figure in your Social Security, and then if you're married, your spouse's Social Security. Then you figure again, this is after doing your budget. We already said that several of our shows, we've spoken about that. Then you talk about your trips and vacations and gifts. Okay, great. Let's find out you come up short. Let's say you come up short $2,000 a month. Well, if you run the numbers, $2,000, I'll make it very simple. $2,000 a month is $24,000 a year. Well, if you take $24,000 a year, and let's say I had a pile of money sitting in your garage, and so as your pile of money sitting in the garage, is it making money? Well, you know you need $2,000 a month, $24,000 a year. Well, if you simply take $24,000 and use a simple calculation, let's say of 4%, just for using a easy math number, 4%. Well, to give you $2,000 a month, you need $600,000, or 24,000 divided by 0.04 equals 600,000. That means you're living on the interest, not the principal. Now, some people will say, Scott, I don't want to leave anything. I want my check to bounce to the caretaker. I just don't want to spend it all. Great. If that's the case, we can change the numbers if you know exactly the day you're going to die. But sometimes we don't. And so we're using the rule of 4, which is an old math of many, many, many years. And you can today, the interest rates are 4.5%, 5%, but they're going to change as the Fed changes the rates up and down like a yo-yo. It depends. So again, take your money that you need on a monthly basis, subtract out what Social Security is, subtract out what your pension may be, and then, okay, here's what the deficit is. If the deficit is using, again, $2,000 a month, times 12, because you want it monthly, divided by 0.04 or 4%. That gives you what you should have in your nest egg. The rest, a piece of cake. Now, I'm making it very simplistic, Alex. I hate to do that because we didn't talk about inflation. We didn't talk about the market taking a big, severe drop. I'm talking about safe money that you can count on so it shows up in your mailbox every Monday, the first of the month.
Right.
This is one way of planning.
Well, and Scott, you'll happily have that conversation for folks if they do have questions. You know, sometimes this math can make people's heads spin, but if people are out there and if they have questions, what do you have for those folks?
First of all, if you got questions, I write them down. If you've got them on your mind right now, write them down along with this very, 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 very important number, 609-488-4646. I'm going to give it to you again because that's the phone number and the website, 609-488-4646. Write your questions down. Don't put this off because you know what? If it's just a quick 3-minute phone call, 10-minute phone call on the phone between you and I. Hide your checkbook, hide your wallet. We're not going to ask for your money. I am here to help you. Been in Weirtown, been in Ocean County since 1979. I'm an old dog, and hopefully I'll live a lot longer to help those of you out there because I love this industry. But we also have to be careful of taxes, Alex.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's where you're going right now, but that's coming around the corner in 2025.
No, let's definitely hit on that number one more time for Scott McLean and the team. McLean Advisory Group is 609-488-4646. But yeah, you mentioned it, and we don't get political on this show. There are plenty of outlets for that if you want that content. But we do have to address the fact that the tax cuts, Jobs Act enacted in 2017 under President Trump is set to expire at the end of next year. Now, we obviously don't know who's going to win the election, but Scott, what would be the implications if the act does indeed sunset, as they say, at the end of 2025?
Both Republicans and Democrats make promises. We hope they keep, but a lot of times they don't. I'm going to pick on both sides, and you don't need to know my affiliation, but you need to understand this is your money. And so when I look at the tax ramifications of the sunset law coming out, this is going to really affect seniors. Why? If you don't have any write-offs like maybe younger people do with their kids or maybe other benefits, maybe you run your own job. But if you are a senior, it's going to really affect you. So I don't care what the Democrat or Republican says. If this sunset law comes off the table, you need to call our office and say, Scott, how does this affect me? And I'm being very clear and candid. Call my studios, better yet, 609-488-4646. Because if the sunset law does come off the table, the question, there's a call right now, X. If it does come off the table, my concern is, are you ready for this? Almost like if your lovely spouse passes away, you go from a married to a single. Tax bracket jumps like a crazy little jumping bean. Well, now we talk about this, the sunset law could really affect you by an extra $4,000 to $5,000 that you did not know. So we got to understand, which is why our firm does taxes. We do the legal work we work with the attorneys, our clients' attorneys, or you can use the attorneys here. But we look at everything. But this taxation is going to be horrendous. It's not going to be, if it doesn't get permanently set, as well as the corporate taxes. And I think Donald Trump's talking about going after China and really putting a lot of challenges against them. That's going to affect you too. So I'm going to pick on both sides. But what's the worst of two evils? This is what we are watching for. And so, Alex, we'll be doing a lot of workshops when this happens. So stay tuned to our website. Not just a plug, but it's 609-488-4646. And go to our website. When we start having educational websites on, you can watch it anytime you want, where I'll be talking about taxes. Please don't put this off. It's going to affect you. Whether your advisor's talking about it or not, you got to pay attention to this. You've got to pay attention to this. It's important.
And as Scott said, that website is simply thephonenumber.com. So 609-488-4646.com. And I think I just want to finish on this note here, Scott, just quickly, that, when it comes to taxes, some people are surprised with the taxes that they pay in retirement. Do you see that? People thinking, all right, generally I'm going to pay less in tax when I retire. Is that true? Do you see people being more surprised with how much they are taxed?
They are. In 2017, under Donald Trump, when he enacted the Tax Cuts and Job Act, that really reduced tax rates. So when we do taxes here for our financial clients, we found people that didn't like Trump was really just blasting him. And I don't say a word either side.
Sure.
But I was saying, let me show you on the tax returns where you're benefiting. I'm not for Trump and I'm not for Biden at the time. It didn't matter. I don't care. I'm talking about just the numbers, and it made sense. You have some people make an extra $25,000 and they paid probably an extra 5% in tax on the extra $25,000. They just didn't understand it because they didn't, like you said, wrap their arms around it. So I take people slowly through the tax return, because when you're retiring, like we just spoke about earlier, when you retire, how much can you pull out? How much do you need to retire on? Well, now we need to look at taxes. And so this is really important that your advisor, if she or he is not looking at your tax return, it's almost like driving down the road with one tire flat. Your car is going to wear out and it's not going to be a smooth ride. So don't settle for less. Pay attention. And if this tax law changes, please, again, go to our website to learn about this. I'm not giving a cheap plug. I've never said our website this much, but there's a lot going on in the next 4, 5, 6 months that are going to affect you guys out there. So 4, 5, 6 months, it's going to affect you.
That number again for Scott, the team at McLean Advisory Group, 609-488-4646, 609-488-4646. Coming up, we're going to talk about planning for the worst, hoping for the best. This is Financial Insanity with Scott McLean.
Stop for a moment and think about this. Do you know how much money in your 401k or IRA is actually yours? Or will the government take a bigger chunk than you thought? Remember, you still might owe taxes on that money, but do you have a plan to help make sure you don't pay more than you should? At McLean Advisory Group, we believe you deserve to keep more of what you've earned, which is why we're here to help you navigate the confusing world of retirement taxes. It's your money. You deserve to know what's at stake. Right now, taxes are historically low, but they won't be this low forever. So call the McLean Advisory Group team today so you don't miss out on this opportunity. 609-488-4646. That's 609-488-4646. You work hard for your money, and we'll work just as hard to help you keep it. McLean Advisory Group, 609-488-4646. Investment advisory services offered through Sound Income Strategies, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisory firm. McLean Tax Advisory Group and Sound Income Strategies are not associated entities.
And when you pay down debt, you don't pay down the highest interest rate. The biggest mistake is you pay the highest interest rate card when you should do the snowball effect of paying down debt.
This is Financial Insanity with Scott McLean, presented by McLean Advisory Group.
Every year, more than 500,000 Americans file for bankruptcy due to medical bills. Healthcare emergency, catastrophic illness, accident can knock you off your feet physically and financially. This is Financial Insanity with Scott McLean. The number, 609-488-4646, 609-488-4646. Scott McLean, McLean Advisory Group. And this is a reality, Scott, and something that we got to plan for, that stuff's going to happen. We're going to have medical expenses.
Medical expenses are real. Going through what I went through, just a knee surgery, put me a new knee in there, and now I got to work out. But it takes time, effort, and energy. They said I wouldn't be back to work for, 2 or 3 weeks, and some people take longer. Well, I was back in a week. I think you and I spoke the week after, but I didn't have the energy I had. I was planning for the best because I told the staff before the drugs wore off, I'll be in next couple days, guys. No big deal. This is the second day out of the surgery, and went right home that next day or the same day. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, I felt great until the major drug wore off. And then I planned for the best. Didn't really plan for the worst. I thought I could jump in the office real quick. But my brain was in the office because I love what I do. I love speaking to you, Alex. I love speaking to people on the air and helping people. I thought I'd have my energy back, and it just wasn't back. How did I plan for it? I didn't plan for it. But how do you plan for it when it comes to your money? That's a hard thing. We don't plan to become sick and then our lights go dim. We don't plan for a car accident, although we do buy car insurance. We don't plan for inflation. We just have to now mitigate or drive ourselves through inflation by reducing our spending, reallocating our investments, maybe not spending money going out to eat as much, so we can work our way through it. We've seen inflation. For those of you who've been around as long as I have, and I'm an old dog, 65, and I can tell you, I feel like my brain says I'm 19, 20. My body says I'm a little bit older, at least for now. How do you plan for the worst? Well, when it comes to finances, that's what's called the asset allocation. It's a big fancy word by saying we don't want to have everything in the bond account. We don't want to have everything into the short-term accounts, into the banks. We don't want to have everything into maybe mid cap, small cap, large caps. Maybe we need to diversify around and find different alternatives. So there's in the universe of investments, Alex, like medical costs. Well, There's one thing in medical costs. Of course, they're always going to be expensive, and they keep going up. You have the right insurance. You can plan for that the best of your ability. You can do those planning. And then as things go on, you ask other people, you pull your brain with some other financial advisors who have been through that tough road or who are going through it or understand it. This is really helpful information. And we talked about medical bills. And one of the biggest medical bills I speak to people when they get a certain age is, should I put my house into a irrevocable trust? So in the event I have to go to a nursing home, I've heard this, Scott, how can I preserve my assets? Where do I put my assets? So I want to make sure that my biggest assets, whether it's a huge bank account, savings account, investment account, maybe my house or my second house, should I put that into a special trust to really protect that or shield that or almost insulate that from the crows and the clowns that show up at the funeral? And when I think about that, many people forget that because they don't want to think about going to the nursing home. They want to think about, going to a place they're going to be away from their home. It's hard to think about. That is what you can plan now for. And then, of course, you have special trusts. We have special attorneys here, and I think we've done a show a time or two. I think we'll do one coming up soon where we talk about these special trusts that could really benefit some of you out there that are thinking about it, or maybe plan for the best and then plan for the worst. I should say hope for the best. Maybe you have a son or daughter out there that are going to be preventing, getting money if you pass away. Plan for the best. How do you give it to them? Do you give it all to them? This is part of your estate planning. How do you diversify the portfolio so that they can get a inheritance? Or maybe they are going through a divorce, and how do we protect the money from your child's spouse? These are questions, Alex, I get all the time.
Yep.
I call it a come to Jesus meeting, a really down-to-earth, real session. This is not textbook financial planning 101. This is asking questions 102.
Right.
Let's really understand what's going on. So again, when you're planning for medical care, let's hope for the best. Yes, we should diversify our portfolio to make money. Plan for the worst. Okay, right now, cash is a great, certain times, cash is a great investment because interest rates are high. But interest rates are low, diversify. But how do we protect our money? Or maybe we're going through a bump in the road, or possible bankruptcy. You mentioned that's a possibility. How do we protect our assets? This is the art of financial planning. But Alex, by the way, I did write a book called The Financial Planning Process, how the financial planning process leads your money to a mousetrap. If anybody's out there who would like to get a copy of that, please call. We'll put you on the air. We'll talk to you about it, give you, or those who want a quick segment of the estate planning, we'd love to get that in your hands. Just give Bonnie a call at 609-488-4646. I'll do it. No cost, no obligation. We can send you the e-chapters, like the PDF chapters. You can send it there. And for those of you who want to visit with me one-on-one, I'd love to get you a book in your hands so you really understand all the different areas. I mean, 40 plus years in this industry. And when I try to culminize or put it together, planning, you're thinking for the best. I want the best to happen. We all want the best until you get hit by a car or you go through a divorce. Or your sweetie pie just died and you don't know how to handle the money because he or she did the money, but you didn't. This is the worst. You need to get a backup quarterback in your life. I'd love to speak to you. If you want to give me a call, by the way, if you're needing guidance or want to question me off the air, please do so. Don't put this back in your brain and put this off. I'd love to talk to you. 609-488-4646. You will not get a sales pitch. You will not get a bill. You will not get come and see me and we'll see how we can help you. You're not going to get that. I've been here for so long in Ocean County since 1979 when I moved up from down south, coming off the road, cutting some albums. I can tell you a fact that if you come visit with us, let's just have a conversation. If the conversation leads to a great area, maybe you go back to your financial guy or gal, your lawyer, but you need to get things done. You've put it on the shelf too long. Maybe I'm speaking to you right now. If you've put this on the shelf for too long and have not brought these planning for the worst, expecting the best, but planning for the worst, let's have that conversation because this conversation is a true, real conversation. Why? To protect all your hard-earned time, effort, and energy, which equals assets, protect that from the the crows and the clowns that usually show up with their hands out. I don't know if that makes sense to you, Alex. I'd love to speak to you off the air. Alex, I don't know how they can get a hold of me. You want to give them a shout out, but I think this is really important, especially now when our economy is doing some crazy stuff. Plan for the best and for the worst for both.
Yep. 609-488-4646. The number 609-488-4646 at a.com for the website. And talking about healthcare costs, it's a great thing we have Medicare. Turns on after we turn 65, but it's obviously it doesn't cover everything. And I know you know some about it. You have folks that ask about it. What is not covered generally, and what are some options for folks dealing with these medical costs that are not covered by Medicare?
Well, I can tell you in the Medicare, I'm actually in that area with many of you people out there. But it really, when you think about the Medicare costs, I know you want to look pretty and get that face, a tummy tuck, or the facelift, or I need a facelift when I was born. But anyway, I was just thinking, it doesn't cover that cosmetic surgery. If you were hurt in a car accident and need cosmetic surgery due to the car accident, it would cover it. Mm-hmm. But it doesn't cover it because you want to get pretty like me, or ugly like me and get prettier anyway.
And we don't recommend people get in car accidents on purpose.
No. That's absolutely don't do that.
Shouldn't do that.
Maybe nursing home. You think it's going to cover nursing home, but that does not cover it. That's a different type of program. Maybe you're about to fly and take a trip overseas. You might want to get travel insurance. I've spoken to so many people, and one of our clients actually almost died overseas. They had to get flown in. Luckily, they had a large enough estate that they were able to get flown in, but they had a hard time getting flown in because they didn't want the doctors to handle him. It doesn't cover that, so you think about your travel. By the way, if you're traveling, I'll throw this out there for poops and giggles. If you're going to go travel, bring your power of attorney, a copy of the power of attorney, and stick that in your briefcase. Good tip for you. If you're going on a trip out of state or a vacation out of the country, bring your power of attorney, because you never know on this. The doctors might say, well, who's the power of attorney? And it'd become a real stickler, because now times thing are stickler. Or make sure that your kids have a copy of the power of attorney via PDF they could send to you. But I would encourage you to do that. But look, again, it doesn't cover let's go back to the subject at hand, the Medicare. It's not going to cover your fancy dental work. And so that's expensive. Hearing aids, if you're a veteran during wartime period, or maybe you served and you had certain in the gunnery range, or maybe in a tank, it may cover by the VA. So check out the Veterans Benefit. I've got a great contact for you to call somebody if you need that help for our dear veterans that served, and as well as long-term care. Feel free to call me. I built a company called Veterans Benefit Advisory Group in 2008. And then, of course, your eyes and your eye exam. So hearing aids, there's a lot of things it doesn't cover. You kind of think it does cover. So if you're like me, as you're in the Medicare period of time, these are things you should be aware of. And when you shop it out, which you can shop it out, there's all different prices. You can shop it out every single year. But again, there are things it doesn't cover that you maybe think it does cover.
Yep.
Beware. You want to plan for the best. So I think that's critical.
And Scott, people that have questions, they could give you a holler, 609-488-4646, 609-488-4646. Scott McLean, McLean Advisory Group. This is Financial Insanity, out-of-the-box thinking for your financial sanity. And we're talking today about planning for the worst, hoping for the best. And we're going to talk about long-term care. Nearly 70% of retirees are going to need this at some point. Don't go anywhere. More coming up.
Stop for a moment and think about this. Do you know how much money in your 401k or IRA is actually yours? Or will the government take a bigger chunk than you thought? Remember, you still might owe taxes on that money. But do you have a plan to help make sure you don't pay more than you should? At McLean Advisory Group, we believe you deserve to keep more of what you've earned, which is why we're here to help you navigate the confusing world of retirement taxes. It's your money. You deserve to know what's at stake. Right now, taxes are historically low, but they won't be this low forever. So call the McLean Advisory Group team today so you don't miss out on this opportunity. 609-488-4646. That's 609-488-4646. You work hard for your money, and we'll work just as hard to help you keep it. McLean Advisory Group, 609-488-4646. Investment advisory services offered through Sound Income Strategies, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisory firm. McLean Tax Advisory Group and Sound Income Strategies are not associated entities.
I call it the chicken and the egg. The chicken is the investment. The egg is the dividend. And so when the chicken pops out the eggs, if you don't need the money, let's reinvest the eggs and buy more chickens.
Man, that's just an excellent analogy, Scott.
We made it back. This is Financial Insanity with Scott McLean, presented by McLean Advisory Group.
Nearly 70% of retirees going to need some type of long-term care. That's according to the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. So not a sure thing, but chances are you or your spouse are going to need long-term or nursing care of some sort at some time. And while the costs vary by location, the median cost of a private room in a nursing home over $100,000. This is Financial Insanity, out-of-the-box thinking for your financial sanity. I'm Alex Dingman, along with Scott McLean, McLean Advisory Group. And Scott, no surprise to you, that number there may be a surprise to some. Long-term care not covered by Medicare, Scott.
It's not. I'll never forget my daddy. I don't know if I mentioned this before in one of our shows, Alex, when Daddy and I were in the car, we're buying a property up in Newark, New Jersey, actually East Orange. And we're driving. He said, son, when I get older, we were going pretty fast on the Garden State Parkway at the time. This was back in the 90s. And, of course, Daddy was young. Well, back then because he was young, but I'm thinking now I'm old.
Yeah.
He said, Dad, what's on your heart? He goes, son, I just want to let you know that if I get dementia, Alzheimer's, I want you to do me a favor. If I get, disabled,
sure,
do me a favor, go down this Garden State Parkway and push me out. What, Dad? What are you kidding? Yeah. He's like, come on, Dad.
Yeah.
And we always joked around like that because we were just a down-to-earth family. And I said, Dad, are you serious? He goes, son, I don't want to go to a nursing home. But now there's nothing wrong with nursing homes.
Yeah.
But if you're in a nursing home or maybe have a loved one there, you do want to inspect what you expect, by the way. But I'll just remember, nursing homes have a way, as you mentioned, Alex, at the beginning of the show, to evaporate that hard-earned income, that hard-earned retirement, that hard-earned beautiful house or estate that you've built. It has a way of really putting a lien on it, and you would never know. So when we talk about healthcare costs, yes, long-term care, and by the way, there's several types, but long-term care provisions or policies or types of contract could be very, very, very valuable. As we spoke, I guess earlier in the segment, we spoke one time about Medicare and what does it cover, what doesn't it cover, the gaps in between it, the drugs, does it cover drugs? But long-term care, this is long-term care. And some states are more effective than other states. So again, this is a good discussion. Mm-hmm. And so there are some products, like give you an idea out there. I'm not selling you, listen to me, you guys, I'm not trying to sell you anything. I'm trying to tell you what's out there so you're aware. See, unaware is lack of knowledge, but if you have knowledge, now you know how to take action. But there's a few products that have been out. When I was younger, I remember I was out in Jacksonville, Florida, where I grew up, and I remember some guys coming door to door selling cancer policies. And I remember, what the heck is this cancer policy crap, Dad? He goes, son, well, I understand cancer is getting bigger. This is the 60s and 70s. I'll never forget it. And I remember Daddy was saying, son, we don't need that. It's just cancer policy. It's cheap. It's like something like $50 a year, and they cover all sorts of cancer. Let's snap forward from 1960, and here it's the year 2000. 40 plus years forward, my dad died of cancer, and my mom did die of cancer. Should they spend the policy? I don't know. But as of those times, policies have gotten better. They've become more aware that people don't want to throw their money away.
Right.
So there's some kind of contracts called long-term care coverage that'll cover the cost, and this could be in the form of life insurance. So if you don't need it, then what happens is you get a lump sum tax-free distribution. So you get all the money back that you paid in. There's other types of contracts that if you put a lump sum down and you don't use it, you get it all back plus interest. There's other policies. If you like the old policy of day, I think Travelers was the number one back then, or Genworth was another company, and John Hancock. A lot of companies out there had the long-term care contracts. And so you pay. If you don't use it, you lose it. That's what the normal contracts were of years ago, but they've gotten much better. This might be a good tool. But let me give you another tool out there, guys, in addition to the long-term care that Alex is really waking some people up to. And Alex is a very good topic. I'm glad you brought it up because people think they got it covered, but it can evaporate your money drastically.
Oh, yeah.
And you think, I can take care of my husband. I can take care of my wife if they get it. I can take care of him. Yeah, your heart is big. Your muscles may be big, but they do get worn out. Your energy gets worn out, and now you need some help. It is a caregiver that you're going to need. And I'm going to tell you that 9 times out of 10, you're going to need a caregiver or someone to come in and help you, whether you're your children or maybe someone else, but you're going to need that and I know we came that with my mom and dad. When Daddy died in 5 days with cancer, leukemia. My mom had cancer. It went from her lung to her kidneys, and 3 months later, she went home to be with the Lord.
Mm-hmm.
But the neatest thing about it, if there was anything neat about it, they died short term.
Of course.
The worst part is watching your mom and dad, like my ex-father-in-law, in a nursing home bed in the VA hospital for 3.5 years of brain cancer. Let me tell you something, guys. This is something that needs to be planned for, and this is something you can do. Whether you speak to your financial advisor or not, or an insurance guy or gal, this needs to be a discussion. Why? Because it's not only a product or a vehicle to use, but maybe it is an estate planning tool. Should I buy or open up a trust? Should I start hiding, or I should say redirecting, better than hiding? Should I redirect my assets into a special trust, which people do with us all the time, Alex, into this trust? So in the event my lights go dim or this money's starting to go out, they will not have to have liens against their property or use the assets. This is planning in the best portion of the area that you can do now. And I think, Alex, people are putting this aside. They're not paying attention. And the reason why? Who the heck wants to talk about your lights going dim?
Yeah,
I don't want to talk about that.
Of course, nobody wants to talk about it, but like we said before, nearly 70% of folks are going to need some sort of long-term care at some point. Yeah. And if you have questions, the number 609-488-4646, 609-488-4646. Usually the time is, well, as early as possible, but when is the ideal time to start preparing for those long-term care needs? Because, I mean, like anything, I'm sure price goes up longer you wait, but what makes the most sense, Scott?
I'm going to reverse that question. When is the best time to start saving? The first day you get a job. When's the best time to plan for long-term care? When you're about to start to retire, or put that in your plan. See, it's not, you may not even need it, but the new programs and the new facilities they have out there, the new products they have out there, Alex, there are some tools that could really help insulate and protect your assets. I don't recommend a special trust for a lot of people right off the bat, but I'm going to give them heads up. So every year, if your financial advisor, your salesman, your agent, whatever you want to call them, if they don't bring up this area of the healthcare issues, whether they're leaving a piece of you off the table, they're not bringing it up. And I'm not being ugly, I'm not being curt. I'm sure they love you to death. But this is not talking about the last trip you had. This is not talking about your kid's wedding or their great grandbaby that just popped out. No, those are great topics. But if we got down into the muck and grabbed our shovel and start to dig down, we're going to find some muck in this discussion to figure out how can we fill this up with protection clauses, rules, whether it's a trust, an irrevocable remainder trust. Maybe you need to start gifting to the children, in addition to protecting the assets, reallocating the investments so it's in a safer mode. So if you need it, it's there. And then, of course, so for some of you who are financially well off, it should be a gifting policy. But by the way, Alex, real quick, that's one of the strategies. I spoke to a person that came in just recently. They have a very nice estate. And I mentioned him on the phone. It came from a radio show, Alex, our radio show.
Yeah.
Is how much can you gift right now in 2023? How much can you gift right now? And what's the gift tax exclusion? That's $17,000. If you're listening to this show right now, it's 2023. In 2023, it's $17,000. But wait, what's that? But wait, there's more. See, if you're married, it's $34,000. But wait, there's more. You see, in this family, they had a very large estate. And I mentioned to him as we had our phone call when they called in from one of our radio shows, Alex, I don't know if I mentioned this to you, but he called in and he asked me, he said, so Scott, what should I do and how should I handle it? I said, basically on everything you just told me on our call, but I'd like to meet you again in person to make sure I got all the details and see the numbers you have. And he did come in just recently. Right on the phone, I said, did you know you could give each one of your kids right now? In his case, it was wonderful. And each one of you out there, don't use his situation for yours, but just gravitate this to your situation, meaning he wanted to give each kid $500,000. Now, his estate was very, very healthy. And he said, Scott, I can do that right now. I said, yes, but it's going to require a lot of work. Really? What do I have to do? It's one piece of paper. Are you kidding me, Scott? We was joking back and forth. He's an 84-year-old young man. I said, yeah, it's just one piece of paper. And it's this piece of paper will come from your tax preparer. He said, well, does it cost a lot of money? No, it's actually probably maybe $25 and you fill out the forms. He said $25 and I can give each kid $500,000. They don't pay any tax on the money I give them. And I could do that right now. I said, yes, absolutely. He said, well, I want to do that. What is that piece of paper? Okay, that's called the gift tax exclusion form. You've got to fill that out. You give that out to the event. You can give actually a tremendous amount of money on the exemptions in 2023, and every year it's been going up. So I encourage, if you're thinking about giving and you're using the number 10,000, that's old school. Today it's 2023, it's 17,000, and it goes up every year. But actually, there's an exclusion up to $20 million if you're married and over. So this is a great way, again, when you're looking at the publication 559. If you pull that up on the gift taxes, you can read that if you like reading that boring stuff. But for those of you, to him, it's not boring because it affects him.
Yeah.
So again, Alex, when we're talking about the long-term care, we're talking about taxes, we're talking about gifting. This is where a financial advisor really needs to get down and dirty and look at all the areas. And I'm sure your guy, if you're listening to me, I'm sure your guy or gal does that. And if they don't, maybe they're just a one-trick pony and sell certain individual products. This could be not good for your financial health.
Yep.
You got to look at everything, Alex.
Absolutely. And if you have questions, Scott has answers. 609-488-4646, 609-488-4646. This is Financial Insanity. Thanks for joining us.
Who likes uncertainty? Wall Street certainly does not. With near record inflation and partisan politics, there's a lot of uncertainty right now. What will America's future look like? What will your future look like? Will your taxes go up? Will your savings go down? For more than 40 years here in the Jersey Shore area, Scott McLean and the team at McLean Advisory Group have seen uncertainty come and go. No matter what the future holds, Scott can help you create a plan designed to preserve your finances in uncertain times. And it's not a matter of if those uncertain times will show up, but when. Call 609-488-4646 now to meet with Scott McLean and the team at McLean Advisory Group. If uncertainty is causing you to feel insecure, Scott McLean might be able to help. Call 609-488-4646 and schedule your visit today. Again, that's 609-488-4646.
Investment advisory services are offered through Sound Income Strategies, LLC. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal.
Frankly, you could have your grandkids tweet out to your friends or go on the Facebook or Instagram or whatever it is and say, I got great information from Scott.
And you left out TikTok there as you're rambling off the different social media being used by the kids today. You got to remember that TikTok.
That's right. Tickety-tock.
This is Financial Insanity with Scott McLean, powered by McLean Advisory Group.
Lots to think about when you're heading into retirement. One of those things is whether or not you should continue working. This is the retirement yay or nay segment. So, a survey by Express Employment Professionals, a staffing agency, indicating 79% of workers between 57 and 75, 79%, nearly 8 out of 10, say they would rather be semi-retired rather than fully retired. Scott, does that make sense? And what are some possible pros and cons to this kind of approach?
What a crazy statement. I remember I laughing because I'm thinking about mom and dad. And I remember when daddy retired and he calls me up. I'm in New Jersey. He's in Florida in Jacksonville. And he says, son, I got to get a job. I said, but daddy, you're retired. Son, I want you to understand I love your mother. I just can't be around her all day.
Hey, you got to be honest in relationships, And
I started laughing. I didn't understand. I was a lot younger than I am now. And, good thing mom and dad are in heaven hanging out waiting for me.
Okay.
Got good news. They can wait. But that stays in my mind when you made that statement, because first of all, I don't know how people can turn the engines off. Me, I'm looking at expanding my firm, but other people are enjoying their retirement. God bless everyone. The question is, when you retire, the hard challenge is, should you keep working? Well, find something. If you love your job, then frankly, you're not working. That's me. I don't have to work. We're blessed enough. I love our clients. I love people. I will continue to work until God calls me home, as far as it looks right now. Luckily, he hasn't called me. The second thing is, other people maybe want to try a different vocation. Maybe they go from being a nurse, a doctor. Maybe they're a toll collector. Maybe they're a sanitation engineer. Well, that's okay. But they want to do something else and they want to find something. So maybe they want to work. So I can't answer that question for anybody here. But dadgummit, my best friend in Jacksonville, Florida, Dale, always makes fun of me because I want to work 100 miles an hour. That guy could sit in his yard, sit around the campfire and have a couple adult beverages and enjoy life. Good old Southern boy. We grew up since age 6. And he always makes fun of me and teasingly because I'm 100 miles an hour. Difference of personalities. Dale likes to rake his yard. I like talking to clients. I can afford someone to rake my yard, but I love talking. So what is your vocation? Don't just leave to leave. There's got to be a compelling reason. Maybe you want to travel with your beautiful spouse or husband, wife, and maybe you want to take a trip. Maybe you want to take care of dogs and or cats, and maybe you want to get in that. Maybe you want to go out and maybe start a lawn service part-time because you love taking care. I don't know what it is, but I can tell you, you better have some type of game plan, because you could be watching Price is Right and that crap gets older. I can tell you for sure. So let's say you're 65 years old. You want to go from company A and you have a 401k, and you want to go to company B and it has a 403b. Well, and you love your work. One mistake I found is you roll the money over to an IRA. Now, why would that be a mistake? Well, maybe you plan on working a long time. Maybe you should roll it over to the new company if they accept it, so you don't have to take the required minimum distributions at 72. Now, frankly, if you don't think you're going to be working until 72, then you roll it over to an IRA, and you've got a lot of universal products that you could buy or get involved in to protect your money. In these times right now, whether they're good times or bad times, you need to invest that money. So the question number one is, if you're going from job A to job B, should you roll over the money to a plan? Next thing is, what choices they give you. This is really important. And in retirement, you know what? If you love what you do, find something else. Speak to your spouse or a significant other. If you're by yourself, maybe you want to go mountain climbing or water skiing like my sport, or just hang gliding like I did. I can tell you there's a lot of fun things, but you got to figure out what you're going to do, and what kind of fun is it going to be?
Maybe you need a first opinion. Maybe you need a second opinion about whether you should keep working, how much in retirement. Either way, Scott can be reached at 609-488-4646, 609-488-4646 at .com for the website. So earlier, we'll just call it 80% of workers between 57 and 75 said they'd rather be semi-retired rather than fully retired. So, Scott, I mean, is this just the end of retirement as we know it?
No. And I think the biggest thing is, and when we spoke about, Alex, is, I think forgot to bring up the health coverage. The insurance is before you leave work. You may just want to stay there and get the health coverage because maybe you're 63 years old.
Sure.
And Medicare is not kicking in until 65. And the health insurance could be as expensive as ever. So I forgot to bring that up as a downside of retiring. Maybe you get a part-time job that offers health benefits. This could be beneficial. And what if you have a wonderful spouse who has no health coverage? Or like my conversation, we were putting a trust together for a client, and they have a special needs son. He's on the insurance. Well, that's a whole nother world on the area of part-time or full-time, whatever. Now, other areas of part-time work, Alex, I'm not sure, but you think about taking Social Security too early. Should you take it or not too early? Should you keep working? And so I don't want to leave that out. I think I might have left it out a little bit before. I hate to. There's so many choices that could drive your money in the ground, and especially if the stock market is dropping, it could really cannibalize your assets and make you have to work.
Well, and Scott, people generally are healthier, generally living longer, and therefore could possibly have a longer retirement. Where in the past, 10, 20 years, maybe it's 20, 30 years. And so you have to account for that, Scott. And that's just a longer amount of time, obviously, to have a steady paycheck or something there to fill that gap. And so that's what makes this so interesting. You don't want to just retire, have nothing to do for a lot of reasons. Financial is definitely one of them, but also, like you hinted to earlier, a lot of it's just mental as well, and your physical health, and giving yourself some purpose and keeping that brain sharp.
That's so important. The purpose. Maybe the purpose is those of you right now that are in or near retirement. Maybe you're in retirement. You need to find a new hobby. You need to try a new sport or maybe a new venture. Maybe you need to try go out, you and your significant other or spouse, or meet new friends, be around people. Don't just cavitate yourself, lock yourself into your room. Just get out and enjoy what we've been so blessed with, this beautiful country. I mean, we could talk about the Democrats and Republicans and get all stuck in the muck and not enjoy life. This is disastrously depression. Leave the politics aside and just be a friend. Just love on people. We're allowed to have our own opinions. And when people aren't allowed to have their own opinions, get away from those people. If they don't respect you, then you don't need to be around each other. We all need respect. And especially times like this, coming out of the COVID area, coming out of the, being isolated. Oh my gosh, it is so many devastating things that are come down the line because of this. Get out and meet people, understand what you're doing. But again, as you said, be very careful with your money because we're living a lot longer. And by taking out too much money in the go-go years, are you going to have enough money in the slow-go years? Are you going to run out of money? And we talked about that in several of our shows, Alex, called reverse dollar cost averaging, where you have to pull a lot more money out. You have to sell a lot more shares just to get the same income. So positioning your money to last a longer time so you have a income that will last the rest of your life. That's why people call us at our studios. Scott, how can I have that income that will last the rest of my life so I can put my head on my pillow and say, I can sleep well at night? 609-488-4646. I'll be able to talk to you if you'd like and maybe help you with some of those areas of concern. I'd love to talk to you. 609-488-4646 before you make the arduous decision. Where do you invest? Should you retire, not retire? And what are your options? There's a lot to discuss, Alex. Guys, I was thinking about this gentleman who went back to work to celebrate his 100th birthday. This one guy in Jersey, however, decided to do exactly the opposite. His name is Bill Hansen, and he celebrated his 100th birthday by returning back to his work, which he diligently for 32 years loved. And so Fred Hutchinson, the CEO of Hutchinson Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling, well, he signed an agreement to go back to the work for one day. And he welcomed with a big birthday cake and a full day of assignments. He loved it. And he took off about 15 minutes after we signed the agreement. He said the agreement to get to work. And the Hutchinson said he had to spend a lot of time where he could be at the company before he retired at age 97. He didn't have much to say for retirement life. He said, quote, "I hate being retired. I never had a job where I didn't want to go to work in the morning." Hansen said, and he attributes much of his happiness in life to his love of his work, his wife, and his family. You see, for retirement, it could be forever. But what is your forever? Is it working? Is it enjoying life? It's about what you have and the quality of your life. Quality of your life, psychologically we spoke about, emotionally, and financially. Can you do it? Make that decision. I'd love to talk to you. 609-488-4646. This is important.
This radio program may contain information which has gone regulatory or other significant changes since its original recording. The information and views expressed on today's show is educational in nature and is not intended to be a recommendation for any specific investment, product, strategy, plan, tax, or legal advice. Information presented is believed to be factual and up to date, but we do not guarantee its accuracy. Investment advisory services offered through Sound Income Strategies, LLC, a SEC-registered investment advisory firm. McLean Advisory Group and Sound Income Strategies, LLC, are not associated entities.
This radio show is a paid placement.